and welcome back to Big Oggie's kitchen. So we are going to do something this afternoon really simple. It is the end of September at the moment and we're going into October next week, and October means Halloween. It also means we're fully in autumn, and one of the great things about autumn is the apple harvest. Now we've got a tree outside which has got a lot more apples this year than it did last year. And the thing is when you have a glut of apples, unless you have somewhere that you can keep them stored for the winter, so it needs to be dry and cool and that type of thing, then what do you actually do with the glut of apples? So we all know we could do things like apple sauce and all those kinds of things, but sometimes it's just nice to be able to do something quickly with minimal ingredients, takes minimal time, but with a big bang for your buck, if you like. So I am going to make basic today apple puffs, but I'm going to tell you how you can pimp them for Halloween, if you like. Okay, so Halloween, traditionally toffee apples, yeah? So hold that thought, but let's get going what we're doing first. So all you need for this, I'm sorry about the oven, but it's so quick I need the oven on heated ready, okay? All you need is 1 sheet of puff pastry from the supermarkets. You don't need to make your own, it's really not worth it nowadays, it takes you ages, and the stuff you get from the supermarket is brilliant, okay? So 1 sheet, and if you can get it on special offer, buy a few and put it in the freezer, because it lasts and it's just even better that way. So for some reason the ones that we buy here, and yours may be different, they always seem to be oblong, they're long. What you really want to try and do with this is try and square them up a bit. It doesn't make a big deal of difference, but that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to try and roll it just a little bit the other way to make it a small bit more square. Okay, now literally that's it. You don't need to fuss with it anymore. The next thing I would say is peel it gently off of the backing paper. You'll see why in a while. The other thing that I've done with mine is I have folded it into quarters. So I folded it in half and folded it again, so I've got marks, because I'm not very good with like working out where's quarter and whatever, okay? The next thing, easiest thing to do, a pizza cutter. And what you want to do with this is right at the very edges of your pastry, literally take off a couple of millimeters. That way, literally like that, your pastry will puff properly, because currently the ends are kind of like squidged together and they won't be able to break open and puff nicely unless you let them out again. So literally all you need is the very, very edge, which is why it's easier with a pizza cutter. So go on all 4 edges with that. Then you're going to divide your pastry. So like I said, I've kind of marked mine. There we go, and then straight through the middle. Like that. And that is your pastry prepared. So the next thing we're going to do is I have made some cinnamon sugar. There's no measurements to this. I've literally put a couple of tablespoons of granulated sugar on a plate, sprinkled over some cinnamon. Use as much cinnamon as you like or as little as you like. If you don't like cinnamon, maybe use, I don't know, some other, you could use ginger, I guess. You could use whatever spices you like, but it's just to give it that nice autumny feel. And then you're going to take your apples. Now you need a good eating apple for this. I'm using Pink Ladies because that just happens to be what I have now. But like I said, once my apples from the garden are ready, then I will absolutely be doing that with my apples from the garden. And what you want to do is you want to cut your apples into slices. So take the top off to start off with, because you don't want the top bit. and kind of take the bottom bit off like that, and then cut them into kind of reasonable size pieces like that. Okay, so what, about a centimetre maybe? And those are what you're going to put onto your pastry. Now don't make them too thick, because the thicker you are, the longer they'll take to cook. But if you want them really chunky and you don't mind them with a little bit of bite, then that's absolutely fine. You do what you want to do. And then all you're going to do is with a an apple corer, literally take the core out of the middle. Like that. So you end up with a piece of apple, skin still on, hole in the middle. And then you literally take this apple and you dip it in your sugar. Like so. So really go sort of getting around it. Unfortunately my apples have dried, but I might just wet them again. When you wash your apples, obviously because they're a bit damper, you can get the sugar to stick to the outside. And then with that apple slice, you're going to put it into the centre of one of your pieces of pastry. So I'm going to go and do that, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. Right. Once you've got your apples on your pastry like this, then you need a sharp knife. And what you're going to do is cut sort of out from your apple a kind of little curvy cut like that on 4 corners. And then you're going to take your corner, lift it over the apple slice and tuck it into the hole like that. It's a kind of little bit fiddly, which is why you don't want to take your pastry too thin, because you want it to stay. And then it looks like that, kind of like a little flower almost.
Like a lattice effect in a way.
Exactly.
Okay.
And once you've got that, you're going to put it onto a baking sheet. And this is why I said to you to peel it off, peel the pastry off of your greaseproof before you put your apples on. So curvy little cuts, they don't need to be too big. Make sure you come out a bit from your apples, it doesn't matter if they're not even. And then tuck them into the hole. Like so. And then pick them up and put them on your tray. So I'm going to repeat that with the rest of them, and then I'll show you what to do next. So, whilst I'm doing this, the reason you don't want your apples too thick is also because of the size of your pastry. If your apples are too thick, you won't have enough pastry to pop into the middle, which is what you want. I reckon, ideally, a standard size eating apple, the kind like if you think of a Pink Lady or a Braeburn or something like that from the supermarket, think supermarket sizing. If you chop the top and the bottom off, I reckon you get 3 decent slices, which is about the perfect size for what you're trying to do. Now, I said to you about pimping this for Halloween. As we said before, Halloween, traditionally toffee apple time. So, what you could do with these is, before you put your apple onto your little piece of pastry, if you had something like a squidgy thing of dulce de leche, is it? Or even a can of condensed milk, but the caramel one, you know, you can buy the caramel evaporated or condensed I think it is, isn't it? You could literally put a spoonful of that underneath your apple slice and then put your apple slice on top, and you would have a toffee apple effect, which would be delicious. I will come back and do that another day. I just don't have any today, and I've kind of done this on the hoof because I'm not feeling very well and I want something nice for a cup of tea in a while. Okay, so once you've got your apples done, you are going to egg wash them. Now you're going to need to do this gently because your pastry is delicate. Whilst you're doing this, your oven needs to be preheating at 180 degrees fan, 200 if you don't have a fan, and I believe it's gas mark 4. So egg wash your pastries. Don't go too mad with it. You don't want it to sort of be custardy, if you like, but just make sure you get the edges. Now if you've got a bit of pastry that's broken, it really doesn't matter. They look pretty no matter what. They're rustic, but they taste fantastic. And for such basic, simple ingredients, it's a real family treat. Now, once you've egg washed, get a small spoon and the rest of your cinnamon sugar just sprinkle over the top. Again, don't go too mad because remember you've got eaten apples, so they're not going to be sour. And you need to do it with an eaten apple, otherwise if you do it with a Bramley, 1, you're going to need lots more sugar, and 2, you're going to lose all the integrity because the apple will just disintegrate. There we go. So these are going to go into my oven now for about 25 minutes. I'm going to check on them after 20. After 10 I'm going to swap them around because obviously I've only got one top shelf in the oven, so after 10 minutes I'm going to swap them from top to bottom. I'm going to check them after 20, but they should be perfect at around about 25, depending obviously on your oven, whether you've got hot spots, all those types of kind of things. Okay, let's get them in and then I'm going to say about the leftover sugar. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, there is no measurements with this. I just winged it, if you like, but I do have quite a bit of cinnamon sugar left. So I've got an old jam jar and I'm going to pour it into there, stick a label on it and come back and use it again so you don't waste anything. And let's be fair, cinnamon sugar is always lovely to have around. If you've got kids like mine who love churros, they absolutely adore cinnamon sugar with those. You can use it for more apple pastries if you want to make another batch, or you can use it for anything. You can use it to sprinkle on top of your mince pies coming up to Christmas if you like. There are so many things you can do with it. Don't waste it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I will come back and do the pimped up version with some toffee in so we can have toffee apple flavoured ones. Okay, so welcome back. So we talked about the pimping of our apple puffs, and that's what we're going to do. So prepare your apples as you normally would. Now, instead of using granulated cinnamon sugar, I'm just using golden castor because that will go towards our goldenly caramelly taste. And then I'm going to use this. So this is Coronation, but there are other types of drizzle or caramel stuff you can get. You can get it in pots, you can get it in tins, whatever. This just makes things easier. So you're going to do exactly the same as you did before. You take your piece of pastry, you get your apple and you dunk it in your sugar. So like I said, we're using golden castor. As I said before, we're using eaten apples, so we don't need to worry too much about the sweetness. Then get your caramel drizzle and drizzle it over your pastry, kind of in the middle where you're going to put your apple. Don't go too mad because we don't want it too much, because we don't want it to encroach on the pastry and make the pastry go sort of soggy. Put your apple in the middle as you did, and then with your knife do your little cuts exactly the same, and then fold in your pastry. like so. And then take your little parcel, like it is, and put it on a baking tray. So, the only difference is golden castor instead of cinnamon granulated, and the little bit of caramel on your pastry. Everything else is exactly the same. If you've liked it, please give me a thumbs up. If you've subscribed, thank you very much. If you haven't, I'd be really grateful if you would. It just really helps me with numbers. Doesn't do anything for you, I'm sorry, but you know, it's a numbers game on this platform, so numbers are important. So that would be wonderful. Come back and see us again soon on Big OGGIE World, where we'll have another load of recipes coming into the autumn. So see you all again soon. Bye for now.